Hi everyone, this is a tool that I've created to help those of you that are doing both a systematic review, but you can also use it as a tool if you're doing observational or an experimental study. So at the top here, this is just kind of a nice tool to help you with brainstorming, hopefully, because I think, whoop, I think that we tend to just stick with like similar terms, but if you think about just other potential search terms that could be used to describe your population that you're looking at, to describe your intervention, if you have any comparison, and again with your research question, you may or may not have something that you're directly comparing it to, but then you typically will definitely have the P, the I, and the O. So just kind of play with some different search terms before you get going. I know some of you have been digging into the research already just to see what's available. Then you can start searching. So I've listed some of the databases that you can use. I think most people tend to go to PubMed first, but CINAHL is also a great one. There's Web of Science, Medline, Scopus. There's a lot of different ones. So it's always best practice to use more than one database. So you'll list the database here, and this is going to be required for those of you doing the systematic review, and you're going to be reporting back on what this table came up with. So continue to fill this out as you search. Those of you doing experimental or observational research, this is more just a tool. You don't have to track it as close as you would with a systematic review, but I still think it might be useful just to kind of keep track of what you're searching, because sometimes we're searching so much that we kind of forget what we had last, where we left off, that sort of thing. Within PubMed, you can actually create an account. So again, with any of the databases, make sure you're going through the ASU library, because then you have access to all the full text articles. So first step is always lib.asu.edu, and then you can choose the databases from there. Let's just do that now. And we'll do that in just a second, just to show you. All right, so systematic reviewers, you're writing down the database, you're writing down the date of your search. You can see down below here what a search string might look like. So you can see how they incorporated their ands and their ors. You put quotes around words if there's two words, but you want them together. If you don't put quotes around it, it could find northern in one part of the abstract or paper, and then it could find Canada in another part. But if you want those two words together, you're going to use quotes. You can see with the ors, that is potentially where this little top part could come in, because your population could be called many different things. So you could say children or child or something to that effect. And you can see how they did that at the bottom here with their different populations. So that's kind of your search string. For the filters, I typically like to look more at the recent research, because as we know in nutrition, the research changes very quickly. So we don't want to go too far back because the guidance could have changed. If you're looking at a particular age group, know that you can use that as a filter. If you're looking for particular types of studies, you can use that. Then write down your number of results with the number of results after removing duplicates. So obviously, like, these databases are pulling from similar sources. So ultimately, you're going to have some overlap. So you want to look at the number of results after you take out the duplicates between the different databases. And then you're going to use the Academy quality criteria checklist that's provided in the Canvas shell, as that goes through many items that help us to see if it's a quality article or not. So obviously every article you come across is not going to be the best fit for your final applied project. So things that I often find on the quality criteria checklist that you might say no to. So it reviews things like, was there blinding in the experiment? So did both the ones running the experiment and those in the experiment, did they know what was going on, or were they all blinded to it? Because with blinding, it just gives you a nice even playing field. It asks things about, like, was the research supported by anyone? So if it's a study on hydration and say Dasani water supported it, then there could be a conflict of interest. So things like that are valuable to look at. And if you have a large number of no's, check that checklist, because then that might be a study that you do not use for your final review of the literature. So this table you are going to report back to me at the conclusion of your research. So very important for the systematic reviewers to track this accurately. For those doing experimental studies or observational, still important, but not as much. So just, it's really more of a tool for you to track your research and the search terms that you're using. Let's take a look at the library website really quick, just in case. So lib.asu.edu. All right, so this is always your starting point. Always go to view resources. This is where you can find your variety of databases to search from. So you can see Web of Science, Scopus, PubMed, CINAHL, etc. So I know most of you probably start with PubMed, so let's just go there, sign in. There's me. All right, and then always go to the advanced search in PubMed, and then you can start with that. Sometimes when I start researching, I actually kind of go down to the title and the abstract. So in another class that I teach, all the students are looking at a variety of different diets. So Mediterranean diet, ketogenic, etc. So oftentimes I'll just kind of look for the keyword that I want in the title or abstract. And then sometimes as my other term, I might put kind of the outcomes slash sometimes it describes your population. I just try to keep it basic as kind of my first search and just see where that takes me. Then I start to apply some filters. So if we look for the past 10 years and I want research in humans, you don't never clicked anything on the full text because we're in ASU. So we already have access to the full text. If you click these, it's going to decrease what you're getting. If you show additional filters, if you're looking at a particular gender, you want ages, you can show those. So say you wanted to see just females and you wanted to see adults. All right, then that kind of obviously brings us down to a much lower number. And you can see over here that then this ultimately becomes your search string. So your little search details over here, it adds in all those filters that I just added. So then you would copy that search string and put that into your chart. So that's just kind of first steps. If you would like to walk through your searching with me, we can definitely schedule a Zoom meeting and do it together in person. I think the research process is really fun. I know sometimes it takes you down a little rabbit hole that you didn't know where you were in the first place and how you got there. So that's when these little search strings become useful. I also really like how they kind of give you some other ideas on the right-hand side here to kind of play with. So that's just kind of a first glance into PubMed, but again, we can talk more through that process if you would like.